Yes! That was probably too loud. So, this video, the second video, the final video before Friday's first post of this game. Welcome to my thoughts on Sonic X Shadow Generations pre-release. You know, how I usually do this, well, I've really only done it 3 times, but how I've done it this is the third time. How I do this, how I did this the first 2 times was I'll do thoughts of that'll get posted the day before everyone's release of the game, and then I'll post my thoughts of for it sometime after. That second one hasn't been done yet. The first one was the Frontiers one. It came out 2 years after. So, well, I'll hope to have the actual thought of for this one up sooner. Most likely after the playthrough we do is finished, which shouldn't be too long, like 3-4 months, if that. But yeah, I don't want to waste too much time. So here's what we're going to start with, right? We're going to start with original generations because there's basically small changes to it. So we're going to start with the story because there's barely any of it. I've heard that Ian Flynn is rewriting some stuff. I don't expect much because all I really think should happen is that the character dialogue be rewritten to fit the tone of Shadow Generations, which I'll get to soon. So there isn't much in terms of cutscenes and character interactions anyway, so like it doesn't matter. The ideal thing would be getting things like having a character cutscene in the vein of what Tails had when you rescued him from Green Hill and after Chemical Plant. But I am not really... Base Generations is already good. They don't need to do too much. And really my thoughts for the Generations remastered part of the game is essentially pretty much just like that. You know, I'm expecting the music to be a little clearer, maybe, if at all. Like, the music I think was pretty fine. It was pretty good. Don't need to do much about that. Ideally, again, I would say that they should do what they did with Sky Sanctuary. For modern Sonic, they should do what they did in Sky Sanctuary and Green Hill, but for all of the stages. I think that would be pretty cool because it did feel weird to only, like, it wasn't even Green Hill, Chemical Plant, and Sky Sanctuary. It was just Green Hill and Sky Sanctuary. It didn't exactly make sense. But that's about it. The only thing gameplay-wise, because I know that they are kind of tweaking the physics a bit, good. We're past the point where Sonic should really have straight tank controls. Even in Frontiers, it was a little better. I could make turns with some type of speed. But the only real thing I would change would be the final boss. The Time Eater boss fight is trash. I doubt they would change it because, I mean, I played it again recently. It's really not that bad, but it's really just dodging stuff. It's a lot of waiting. So I'd say make it a little bit less waiting, but it's whatever. I can still deal with it. The rest of the game is good anyway. Now, my thing is, right, they're doing some changes. They're taking away lives. Again, good. I don't really think you needed lives. Lives are anything from a frustrating as hell in the games like Unleashed to basically not needed in games like Generations. Both ways you look at that, they really don't matter. Because what the fuck are you doing dying so much that you get a game over in Generations? And why do I need to grind lives to not have to restart the stage from square one every time, like in Unleashed? So that's fine. Adding the red ring counter in its place, awesome. Because that was like the only thing about finding the red rings. The red rings themselves weren't really in hard places. It's just that I had to have no fucking clue where to look, so it was just combing through the whole level at least 2 times because I missed some. This isn't like Frontiers either, where most of the red rings are placed in places where you can get them in one run. The immediate example is classic Sky Sanctuary. You have to take 3 different paths at the end to get all the red rings for that. I did that. So having the counter for them when you can't see them, that's pretty good. They do technically have it outside on the world map, but having it work like Lost World forward, where you can see what order they're in, that's good. So I know, okay, if I'm missing the 4th and 5th red ring, I remember where the 3rd red ring is, I just have to look past that area. So that's a good thing. Okay. Now we have the drop dash. The drop dash, I know I'll get some use with it out of Classic Sonic. Modern Sonic, maybe. I've honed my Modern Sonic runs to the point where I'm not sure where I would be able to fit it in to get more time. I think after I saw that Green Hill video, I think I could count a couple places where the flow of the stage in general would just be better, and maybe the time as well. But we'll just have to wait and see. I like the addition for both of them anyway. And again, ideally, if they did go farther with it, I would like to see other moves like the instant shield and stuff be in the game as abilities you can toggle. But again, just adding the drop dash I think is pretty good. So the final big change that I know of for base generations, they're adding the Chow that you can find in stages. This would be a good thing for people like me who've played the game to goddamn death, adding another thing to find everywhere. My only real question is, what am I about to get for getting them? You know, like with Red Rings, you get art, music, and abilities. So, what am I about to get for finding them? Am I going to get new art, music, and abilities? Or is it going to be something else? Or if I'm just not going to get anything? So it really, like, just depends. How I feel about this feature really just depends on what I get for it. I think at worst, it's just like a cool little like treasure hunt thing that you could just ignore if you don't really like them. Alrighty, 7.5 minutes in, we are done with base generations. There really wasn't much else to say because like they're upping the quality of the cutscenes. Okay, like this game looked and played good already, so they don't need to do much, which I actually do think was a good idea to do for something like Shadow Generations, and especially for the first time that we're doing something like this where they have an older game and a new game bundled together. Like, they're inseparable, you can't get them separately. So I think that was a good idea, bundle it with a game that was good, only needs slight tweaks, and then have the new stuff next to it. Speaking of that new stuff, 8 minutes in, Shadow Generations. I'm really liking the look of this. It looks like they said the length was supposed to be around Generations. I could probably see that. How this is probably going to work, since I know that the stages are way longer, is that Shadow's stages, Act 1 and Act 2, will be like 5 minutes apiece, most likely around that. And then they'll have bosses and rival fights. But that also means that the challenges probably take a back seat. But we'll just have to wait and see. Because I think we counted at least 6 levels so far for Shadow, including Sunset Heights and Chaos Island. Now, if they split this up into eras like Sonic Generations, this actually makes sense. Because Sonic had the classic adventure and the modern era. Shadow was introduced in that adventure era, and if we want to be technical, halfway through it, because it goes Adventure 1, Adventure 2 Heroes. So he would have missed 4 whole separate slots. So assuming he gets 9 stages like Sonic does, that means that we could get 4 stages from other games. So if we want to have every game have representation, that would mean that we're not seeing the Lost World, and do we want to count Superstars? I don't know. We could not. I don't know. Or we could go Mania or something. I don't know. There's different ways they could go about it, but I'm more thinking that there should be 3 future levels, and just have a Lost World one, like, I don't know, not Dusty Desert, Frozen Factory, because there was no snow level in base Generations. So that's the level stuff. The gameplay, it's like a marrying between Sonic Frontiers and Generations, which works out for me because they're my favorite games, my top 2 favorite games in the series. I do like how they directly answered the stage length issue that every game since Generations has had, or really since Colors, where no matter what quality the stage was, it always felt like it was too short a lot of the time. Now we're getting stages that are like the first stage, I think, is what Space Colony Arc, I think they called it Act 1. And that I've seen people play that pretty good, and it's still crack 4 minutes. So we're reaching Unleashed timing with this game in terms of stage length. I loved Unleashed stage length around the middle of the game, like start to middle. I think for a Sonic game, it starts out at 2, eventually makes its way to 5 or 6, and it should stop there. I think with 7, you're pushing it, so like add a bet, like Jungle Joyride Day. And then all the warehouse stages are just too long, so we can just ignore that. Going back to the levels, going back to the gameplay, right? Shadow has his Doom powers. I'm pretty sure, if I'm understanding this correctly, his Doom powers should be Act 2. So you probably could still use them in Act 1, but they're built around Act 2 if I had to guess how that would be structured. Or it would be structured Act 1 is 3D, Act 2 is 2D. Or maybe they would switch it up, but just have one act be one and another act be the other. So that way they keep the act structure and have them be different styles while still being a fast-paced platforming game. And then the white world, instead of just being a 2D space, we just go level to level. They are making it an open zone from Sonic Frontiers. Yes, I'm so happy about that. And there's like water skimming and stuff, which is also one of Shadow's Doom powers. So a lot of the stuff that I wanted to see more of in Frontiers, like water, like anything involving water, or something from the base games that came beforehand. A lot of that stuff seems to be added in here. I do want to see what the combat for the open zone looks like, if there is any, because it can't just be spamming Chaos Spear. You probably want to use a lot of Shadow's Doom powers in that area, other than just like the surfing one. But yeah, I'm just excited to see what that looks like. I think it's going to be pretty good. Now, story-wise, I don't really have, like, I don't know how they're going to do that, because Generations was a pretty, like, A to B game. There was barely any story in it, but, like, it went, like, just straightforward. I don't know if they're going to do that, or they're going to do the Frontiers way, where you have to collect stuff to gain access to story progression and levels. Just having the levels be the main point of the game already makes it more structured. I think I brought something like this up in my thoughts for Frontiers, but it's the only reason why I think the story structure and a lot of the stuff that Frontiers did worked out in its favor was because it was the first time they tried to do something like that. The way that I think Shadow Generations works is more in line with how I think the rest of the series should work afterwards, where the stages are still the point, but you have to actually do a bunch of shit in the open zone to get there. That way you can have a structured way of telling a story, so people won't miss stuff like people did in Frontiers a lot. And then if you have any optional stuff like flavor text and stuff, do it the way that Frontiers did it. I think that'd be the greatest way to go, and I think they're doing that. They are freshly traumatizing, bro. Again, they really just said fuck him, and that's been his whole existence since Adventure 2 anyway, so nothing's really changed. I am excited to see, though, because people are thinking about how the story is going to go and wondering if we can actually change something about Maria and Gerald Robotnik's fate. This is just like the rest of the remaster for Generations. If they don't, that's cool. It's fun to see all the stuff that Shadow gets to see in the past and future and stuff. But if they do, I'm interested to see how they do it, and I think I would prefer that. But again, I'm not here for a specific outcome, just in general. I'm just here to see how they execute the thing that they're trying to execute. In terms of level picks, I'm really obviously the arc has to be there if we're talking about Shadow Generations. It has to. Things like Radical Highway. I think Radical Highway is in the game. That's another one. Bullet Station and Rail Canyon. Those two, they're getting the Seaside Hill treatment. We know that because that's how Generations did that with Seaside Hill and Ocean Palace. That one was interesting. Honestly, when I think of Team Dark, I don't really think of that stage. But honestly, I think of what was it? It wasn't not Frog Forest. I think of Team Rose when I think of that. It's not Hand Castle. What was it? It wasn't Final Fortress, was it? Like the very end of the game, the last two stages. I think of that for Team Dark more than Real Canyon or Bullet Station, but I'm pretty sure I'm in the minority there. And evidently, people think of Seaside Hill when they think of Team Sonic and just Sonic Heroes in general because that made it into the base game. So I'm very interested. I did play Heroes specifically for this year, like for this game. And Bullet Station was one of those stages that I really liked the look of. I think I liked most of the stages involved with it. It's just like, it's Heroes, so it has some problems with what it's attempting to do. Like having those narrow-ass platforms and then having a gameplay style that goes from 0 to 100 in less than a second and can't turn for shit. That's pretty nerve-wracking, and then the rail switching is a bit of an issue. But I like the level pick, and then we have Kingdom Valley. If I wasn't going to pick Crisis City for 06, Kingdom Valley would have been the one that I picked. So that's pretty good to see. Then we have the two levels from the future that we know of anyway. Sunset Heights and Chaos Island. And I am so ready for those two. Specifically, Sunset Heights. Because Sunset Heights was one of the stages I really liked in Forces. But okay. Modern Sonic's version of that stage was less than was like a minute and a half. The Avatar's version of that stage was essentially just modern Sonic's except slightly extended. Classic Sonic had Ghost Town, and that one, I thought it was pretty cool. But in general, they were all too short, and two of them were copy-pasted up until the end anyway. So I'm excited to see that stage potentially get extended into like a 4 or 5 minute stage. I'm ready to see that. And from what I saw, it looked pretty close to how Sonic Forces Overclocked actually ended up handling. Sonic Forces Overclocked and Sonic Forces Reimagined, how both of those ended up doing Sunset Heights. So I'm excited to see what Sonic Team's actual take on having an extended version of that stage would be. Chaos Island... Oh wait, actually, backtracking. Also, they gave Sunset Heights the rooftop run treatment, where the original song had more guitars and drums involved, and then those are still involved in the Generations version, but now they added the violin and piano pretty prominently. I am so ready for that track. I need it now. I need it. Let's see, Chaos Island. This one will be interesting because if we ever have another Generations game of any kind, we said we probably wouldn't get one, and then we ended up getting Shadow Generations anyway, so we're just going to take the whole assumption off the table right now. I would say that this is interesting because of the fact that we get to see how they would execute the islands from Frontiers in a linear stage format. And honestly, even like this version of the level even has stuff that the people wanted the original Chaos Island to have, like having or really just the islands in general having themed platforms and everything instead of just all using the air floor and air wall stuff. That's the actual name of those platforms, by the way. So, and then that was where we got to see Doom morph for the first time. The squid transformation that let you cross the miasma and shit. Just in general, I feel like that one's the most interesting because the original island was like you can go everywhere, almost everywhere. You did have to do some events for other places to open up, and even then they were like small islands. So seeing how they try to incorporate like all the landmark areas or as many as they can into the stage will be pretty cool. And I'm wondering if those godforsaken laser birds are there. Alright, now finally, there are challenges within the open zone. I want to see what those end up being. Because Sonic Generations were pretty basic. You know, if you had an ability you would get from the challenge, you'd use that ability in the challenge. Yeah, there was something involving your friends with the modern Sonic. With the exception of Tails, from modern Sonic, when you interacted with your friends in the challenges, they would usually help you. And with classic Sonic, it usually be some form of challenge. Now, Tails is the exception, and I just remembered Vector is also the exception to that. And Espio, I think. I don't remember if Espio did anything for classic Sonic. But I do know that, like, Amy, Knuckles, Blaze, Charmy. Wait, did it? He probably did have a Charmy mission. I'm trying to remember, because I did all the missions, but I just don't remember. I don't know. I think some of them don't have a classic Sonic one. But the ones that did, Blaze, Amy, Knuckles, Rouge, Cream, like, they had challenge missions for classic Sonic. Now, the ones that didn't were Tails, Espio, and Vector. Those are like the only ones where Sonic was challenging one of his friends. And other than the Tails one, although they were pretty interesting. The Tails was just a race. But the whole point of me bringing all that up was I'm excited to see what exactly we'll be doing as Shadow in his challenges. Like, it could just be Doom Powers, or we could see other characters from that are significant to him, and challenge them to races, or have some sort of finding items type challenge or something. Just in general, I like the look of Shadow Generations. It's definitely a step up from Frontiers, which, other than its animation in some of the cutscenes, I thought was pretty good looking for pretty much the whole game. It even has some really good graphical options that they just don't use in that game. If you pay attention to the modding scene for Frontiers, you'd be able to see it. And it looks like they're starting to use a lot of those options in this game. Oh, and then there's also the Terrio skin. All I know is that there was some type of controversy for it, and so I immediately expect it to just be a normal, if not weird, kind of weird looking skin. Because that's exactly the type of stuff that this fan base starts flame wars over. And then there's the Sonic 3 movie pack. I don't really have much to say about that. We didn't get to see much of the level. I'm hoping that it gets 2 acts and that there isn't only one stage. But if it is just the one stage and just the one act, I'd expect it to be a little longer. But given the rest of the game, even if it isn't any of that, I still think it'll be a pretty good stage. The only thing we should be expecting to complain about is that it was only one act, or only one stage. And the fact that they got Keanu Reeves to voice this version of Shadow as well. It is the same Shadow from the games, but I do like how they executed it, and I do like the implications. Is that okay? Just like something like Kingdom Hearts, if these characters go into other worlds, their appearance could change because of the way that he references himself in the trailer. I wonder if I should put that right here.
Taking on another form?
Just some silence to be able to put that there if I decide to. So yeah, that's about it for this. Only really like 10 minutes less than my thoughts of for Frontiers that I did. So by the time you see this, the next video that gets uploaded on the channel will be the first part of the Sonic Generations portion of Sonic X Shadow Generations. That one's pretty special for us. So yeah, we'll see you there. See ya.